Hey, fight fans, welcome back to Carlo Prusa MMA. Today, I am with UFC Lightweight. He is Mr. Joe Solecki, and it is fight week. He is making his return to the UFC cage. It's going down Saturday, Apex, Las Vegas, taking on Nurullo Aliev. Joe, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. So, short notice contest, man. We just found out a few days ago that you're competing. Just got the offer last week. When they called you, was it a no-brainer but to take the fight?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We kind of knew short notice was going to be the thing for a while now, a couple months. So they were getting booked out so far out that if we weren't booked, we knew. So we kind of talked to the matchmakers and was like, well, we can get you on something short notice if it comes up. So one came up in for the Salt Lake City card the first week of October. So that was a couple weeks prior. So early September. So we were like, okay, if it's going to be short notice, we need to hop in a training camp. So I started a very, very long training camp in September and kept going. So short notice as far as the opponent goes, but the volume and intensity of training, all of the same things that we would always do for a fight. So, obviously the taper is different because you get to notice a little later. But aside from that, like all the things I would do for a regular fight with, full camp and all that have been done maybe 2 times over. It's been like 16, 17 weeks. So, we were grinding and then got the call on Tuesday, so a week ago, that it was, possibly available and we might be able to get the fight. And then kind of radio silence till Saturday. We finished sparring Saturday, assuming we had the fight. Right before sparring, I found out. Then went in, finished the last sparring session, closed up camp, and started taking care of the logistics, like flights and stuff, and how we're going to get out here.
In this day and age, if you want to be in the UFC, if you want to fight at the highest level, do you have to train year-round?
I mean, if you want to be able to capitalize on opportunities and you want to continue to grow your skill set, I think you have to. I think no matter what level you're at, you should be. I think guys harp too much on the camps. Obviously you want the luxury of being able to prepare, more so, not even for the opponents. So that's why, I've done maybe like 2 or 3 interviews for this, not much, but every time I was saying I was in a camp and was in fight shape, it was like it fell on deaf ears. It was like, well, no, so how do you really feel not being prepared? I was like, I am prepared, but you want to be able to maybe manage your weight closer or further out and like those things. But I think you should always kind of be ready to go. Maybe not to hop on a fight on a week's notice. Like we knew it was going to be a short notice situation when the fight came. So I had the kind of the luxury of being really, really, really primed and in the best shape I could be in. But I think you should always be within a couple weeks of, being able to say yes to a fight.
Last time we saw you out, took on a tough guy, Grant Dawson. Obviously, it didn't go your way, but what were some of the takeaways? What were some of the positives from that performance?
Anytime you get to run through your processes and refine them and go through a camp and a fight week, like you're going to get better on the other side. You're going to learn things that you like, things that you didn't like. So obviously all of those things, going through the camp, going through the weight cut, we always take away, there's always notes to take away, always data. The fight was anticlimactic. I think it was, it's kind of a weird clash of styles. Obviously, I don't prefer to fight on my back ever. He had a really, really good timing on his level change. It didn't feel like overwhelming grappling where I was like, oh, I'm outclassed. Just I cut him with an elbow early. He got super slick. His ability to stay in my guard and just posture up at the right times, I could not get a hold of him. So he didn't really do much damage, but I could never create an angle, get a post to get up. It was just slippery enough where, and I mean, even if there wasn't blood, there would have been sweat too. So it's not like that's what changed it, but it was just he did a really good job of maintaining top position, so taking those lessons back, it's like, number one, don't get taken down. Number two, when we do, just preventing, a lot of the things that he did well, keeping his head over my head or his hips, controlling mine. So, you're not training for that guy anymore after the fight happens, but you do go back, at least I do. You go back and you try to right some of those wrongs in the training camp. So that if there was a hole in your game and it wasn't just that guy's style, you can patch it up,
That was on one of the biggest fight cards of the year. Obviously, the big Islam Makhachev, Dustin Poirier. What was it like being around all the cameras, all the spotlight, all the biggest stars in the game, huge arena? What was that like for you?
Yeah, we stayed off site at Airbnb, so we weren't around too much. And my media schedule's thin, so it's not like I'm there doing. I have the bare minimum usually, so we're around on fight week, but we get in and we get out. So. For us, it was not much. It's always better. For me, it's always better and more enjoyable to just get it done and get the heck out of there. I think some guys actually thrive on being around it. They'll kind of hang out by the UFC offices all week, and like I think they like that. We just want to get in and get out. So but you know, with the crowd and stuff, it was packed out there from the jump. So that was awesome. You know, it was my home state. So, you know, we didn't get to perform the way we wanted to, but still memories we'll cherish for a lifetime. And, you know, having the whole team there, having some of my family and all that is always very important. So, you know, the older I get, the more camps I go through, the more fights I go through, the more you start to really appreciate the process and the journey. You know, it's never going to be in me to not be results driven, because we're in a sport where, you know, it's prize fighting. You want to win. I mean, I don't play anything or compete in anything if I don't want to win, you know, even recreational stuff, just how I am. But, you know, there's always those silver linings to the experiences and stuff. And I would say that that was definitely part of it.
You know, last time we saw you in any sort of action was in November. You got to take part in another grappling contest, took on Peter Fazika's, got a good win, CFFC show. What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was great. I love, you know, getting to compete for them. Fury Grappling does a great job. And it's just nice to be able to stay sharp, right? If the fights aren't coming or there's not availability, it was, you know, there's a couple things I was able to hop in. I hopped in a IBJJF competition, just trying to always stay sharp, always work on my craft, and just stay acquainted with adrenaline. You know, I think the worst thing we could do as guys that are going to go out there and perform at a high level is just sit stale for a year without feeling that rush of, you know, getting somewhere, checking in, the warm up, because, you know, even though the activity is different and the crowd's going to be smaller a little bit, the processes are the same, the feel is the same. You know, it really doesn't matter if it's 50 people or 20,000. It does feel the same if you're a certain kind of competitor like I am. So for me, I get just as much into that as I do a fight, and it helps me refine my processes and stay kind of acquainted with that adrenaline, so that, you know, rust never becomes a factor. Always great to be able to get a win also against a tough guy. And yeah, I love doing that. Obviously, fighting is the main focus, but when those opportunities present themselves, it's always fun to be able to go do that.
You know, in addition to being a professional fighter in the UFC, you're also a promoter. You have your grappling promotion. How much fun are you having doing that?
I enjoy it. You know, it is tough when you love something as much as fighting or competing, to know that one day that will be over, you know, and nobody knows when that day is going to be, you know, except God. But, you know, so you go, man, like, am I ever going to find anything that fills that gap? Or, you know, so it has been nice to get a little taste here and there of like, oh, I actually enjoy the production side of it. You know, of course, when I started it, it was for a couple of reasons. It was like, I want to have a tournament. We do super fights. We also do regular tournaments. So I was like, I want to have an affordable tournament where people don't have to break the bank to go get experience, you know, before they go to you go to IBJJF in California. It's like, think about how many thousands of dollars you're out for one match, and I'll see you later. Thanks for coming. So it was like, I want to have like a nice event for people to wet their, you know, get their feet wet a little bit in competition. And then with the super fights, that's more fun for me because I get to really actually not be an event organizer, but a promoter, you know, and I enjoy it. I like to see how the matchups unfold. I like to, you know, try to make a good experience for everybody because I've been competing forever. So you know what you like, what you don't like. You know, somebody said something last one about like all our venues always have 2 locker rooms. And I was like, oh yeah, like I can't stand having to share a locker room with who, even if it's a grappling match, it's friendly, but still you don't want to be like shoulder to shoulder warming up. So just kind of getting to apply things that maybe weren't done when I was competing and try to improve upon it a little bit. So it's fun, and it's been a fun little business endeavor, and we're going to keep it going for sure.
You know, mixed martial arts, obviously, it's so big. So many people watch the UFC and the other various promotions. I still feel, you know, from the casual fan standpoint, that a lot of people don't realize that mixed martial arts is more than one thing. It's more than, you know, obviously what you do in the UFC, going out, head kicks, knockouts, all that. You have grappling, you know, as an element of mixed martial arts that, you know, working professionals can use, families can do, kids can do. For you to be able to have this platform now as a fighter and have a promotion to help, you know, promote the sport of grappling, do you take a lot of pride in that?
Oh yeah, I love it. You know, I love the opportunity because, you know, so many things in my life have come through the avenue of grappling and jiu-jitsu, like meeting so many close friends and family and people that you compete against, you keep in touch with. I mean, I was just talking to the guy that I grapple with, Peter Fazika's at Fury Grappling, like last week. He messaged me, happy holidays. You know, like we're going back and forth for a while. Like you forge cool friendships and relationships with people. And, you know, as a promoter, you kind of get to facilitate that a little bit. And it's a little friendlier than, you know, MMA is. MMA is a little more cutthroat. You know, there's a lot more on the line. Your health's a lot more at risk. So people are, you know, you're not exactly making lifelong friends in MMA events. But when you go to jiu-jitsu and stuff, you really do you meet people, you network, and it's just so much fun. It's an extension of the gym and the academy, right? When you get out there, like it really is a little bit of that. Obviously, it's competition, so you still want to win, but yeah, and it's for all ages. It's a nice outlet for people who, maybe can't commit full time to competing in a sport, or maybe they're a little older than a prime athlete like that, but you get to come and get that super fight or get that walkout and have your friends and family come, or your kids. And like, that's kind of what it was designed in mind with people like that. So really fun to be able to watch that and facilitate it.
So many people watch sport in this day and age, and now we have what's called the casual fan, which, there's some pros and cons with this. Obviously, I'm sure you've seen it. We've all seen it. These guys drunk in the stands, grappling exchanges going on in the cage, jiu-jitsu exchanges, booing, they're humping each other, crotching, all this crazy stuff. How does a guy who's a very good grappler and has really made his name for being such, how do you take these people?
I don't care. It's I got thick skin. I always tell everybody, like, I started training in 99. So like when I was in school, it was not cool to do jiu-jitsu. And I wasn't fighting MMA, and nobody knew what the UFC was. Like, you couldn't even be like, oh, it's like the grappling part of the UFC. So like, I got called and made fun of way worse than any booing from a drunk fan who paid money to come watch, So yeah, it doesn't really matter. This is how we feed our families. I got a job to do. My first job is to go out there and try to get 2 checks, try to get a win, and then the secondary would be trying to, get the finish or be exciting. And of course you want to. Like, one of the biggest things after that last fight wasn't even the fact that I lost. It was like, man, like, I didn't get to show what I can do. I didn't get to go out there and like go out on my shield. I kind of just got held. I know that's not discredit to Dawson. He's a great fighter. It's just the way our styles matched up. But at the end of the day, go watch Glory Kickboxing. But they don't do it. And then kickboxers don't make that much. So then kickboxers have to come to MMA. So it's like, so something's missing. Like, that's not as exciting for people to watch, but MMA is, but they hate the grappling part. It's kind of a weird disconnect, but I don't know. It doesn't bother me at all. It's just, I got a job to do, and I love the job I get to do. So it's just trying to enjoy it all, even the booze, because, I try to laugh at myself too. So like, we always talk about stuff as like a team. Like, my coaches would laugh and be like, oh, they didn't like that one. Or we were laughing today about, I had an accidental foul in the last fight. Like, I caught a kick and I thought he was going to turn. I was going to catch him in the body of the head, and he kind of stayed square, and I just kicked him right in the groin. I felt so bad. I was like, oh my gosh, how awkward. We were laughing. Like, you got to be able to laugh at this stuff, man. If you don't have a sense of humor, you're going to be miserable, and this sport's going to be very tough for you, because, everybody's going to have their day where something foolish happens or embarrassing or whatever it is. And like, if you can't enjoy the journey, you're going to be either miserable to be around, or you're going to end up hating the sport. And I don't want to be either, so.
It's kind of crazy to think you're about to make the walk for the 9th time now here in the UFC. For you, do you feel like the mentality changed at all from when you first started getting into this stuff?
I'm a lot more patient in the whole process. I don't know. It's weird. I'm in my athletic prime. I'm the best I've ever been. I mean, I feel it. I see it in the gym. I'm doing great. I feel, obviously I lost 2 in a row. One was a weird circumstance, but I didn't feel slow or missed a step. Like, I felt better walking out those nights than ever. So like, I'm doing the right things, so I'm far from old, but I do feel like there's a little more perspective than when I first got here, and I think that's when you really start to really love and appreciate the sport. Like, I got here thinking it was going to be something totally different than it's become, or it is. And I love what it is for me now much more. I've gotten to be around some of the elite guys, and not just saying what's up, but like being parts of their camps and stuff, like the Weidmans of the world and stuff. And, you go to these fight weeks and you see like why certain people do it, why other people are doing it, and who you resonate with. And, because I think there's a point in time in my career where I thought I wanted to be like, maybe before he would jump the shark and went completely nuts, but like wanted to be like the early McGregor, like, oh, I want to go out there and make my name known and this and that. Like, that couldn't be further from my drive or my inspiration at this point. I want to be the best I can be. I want to make the best living for my family, and I want to use the gifts God's given me and be a good steward, but personal glory and, all that stuff that you get so desperate for at the beginning is just not on my list anymore. Like, I kind of said that. It was like, there's so many things in the past that I was like, you can come to the UFC and you're like, oh man, like, I got to win that first fight, because if they don't invite me back, I'll never get to go to Las Vegas again, or I'll never get to be on an interview again. And like, I still appreciate all those things. We come out here, great trip, awesome to be back in the fight capital of the world, or it's awesome to be talking with you and have a platform. But on the same token, it's like, that's not what fighting's about. Like, if I never get to do another interview again, I'm going to be just fine. I've done a lifetime's worth of media over the past, 10 years. If I never get to come to Las Vegas again, it's like, I'm not built for Las Vegas anyway. So it's like, but the walk, the processes, the time with the team, the actual competing, like those are the things that I absolutely just love right now. And I think I kind of missed the forest for the trees at the beginning of my career, especially at the beginning of the UFC career. 'Cause it's such a whirlwind. You just don't know any perspective. You don't know what it's going to be. And, it's been better than anything I could have imagined, but very, very different. So it kind of makes you feel a little more dangerous. I was kind of talking about that all week is like, there's nothing, because, coming off 2 losses, there probably is a career on the line or, at least in the UFC. And I was like, man, if that day ever comes, like how will I process that? And I was like, oh yeah, like there's nothing that I feel like I could be threatened of having taken away that I'm afraid to lose, and I don't know that I could have gotten to that point a couple years ago. Like there's such a status you're hungry for and all those things. And I think it's a testament to my faith. I think it's a testament to my family and my team and all the good things that God's given me. But it feels super dangerous and freeing. I feel like the last couple fights, it felt like that, honestly, where it's like, man, I just feel blessed to be going out here and ready to let it fly.
So originally you're from the Northeast, moved down to the Carolinas, trained at Gym O's, becoming a huge gym down in North Carolina. Obviously, North Carolina's got also Carolina Combat, Brian Battle doing some big things there. We got some gyms in South Carolina, obviously Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's, Upstate Karate, some promotions in North Carolina, Fight for It, Conflict MMA in South Carolina. I think for so long, people were kind of sleeping on mixed martial arts in the Carolinas, and now you're really seeing it develop and grow. What do you think are some of the reasons for that?
Well, I think, a couple things. You need the opportunities. You can't have promotions that are kind of bush league where people write off your region and go, oh, that's like half a win, And I think when I moved down here in 2012, a lot of it was like that. Like you'd be like, oh, man, like one win at Ring of Combat or CFFC is worth 3 or 4 at, the local promotion down here. We were getting grouped in with maybe the Deep South, and I don't think people realize the talent that was down here. There was only maybe 2 promotions in South Carolina, and then there was Fight Lab in North Carolina. Those are great promotions, but how often can you have them? And there was so much going on. So the other big thing I think is guys paving the way. The Scott Holtzmans, the Brian Barbarinas, the Ricky Rainey's, all these guys that went out there and got to big promotions. To be able to see that and know that it can be done is very, very important. And then, also the coaches. You have to figure out these processes because, when you're up north, you get career coaches. You get guys that own gyms for a living. And down south, you have it too, but you might get like a jiu-jitsu instructor and then a boxing coach. Then this, like actually having these guys, like the gyms that you mentioned, that's huge. Personally, I'm not, putting us above anybody else, but personally, just for me being, around Jeff Jimmo is like, it just gives you a level of confidence where it's like when we go to some of these shows, if we travel or something and you're watching people that maybe have never been at that level, you're like, oh my gosh, like we're not doing the same things like with the weight cuts or with the rehydration. Like there is better processes than others. And to be able to get out to that level and be exposed to that and bring that back for your team, that's how the next generation becomes better than the last and so on and so forth. So there's a bunch of guys that paved the way. And then being around that is huge. For me, it was moving and training with John Salter. I had been around guys that maybe had been to like a Bellator fight or 2. But I had never been around like a successful career-long fighter. And that was the first look for me. And then being around him day in and day out was incredible. It was like a mentorship. So what we need is guys doing that for the next generation. I was just texting, Scott Holtzman manages me. So I was just texting him about some notes I had from his last weight cut. Oh, did you do this or that? Okay, cool. Like that's what you need. Whether it's what you need to do or what not to do, you learn from the generation before you. And, then we just keep getting better and better and better. Now we got quite a few guys out there in the UFC and, and other promotions, and it's only going to get better from here.
For you, what does it mean to be called a mixed martial artist?
I don't know. I think at one point in life it was everything. And now that seems so foolish. Now it's something that I love to do. And I think being a fighter will always be a part of who I am because I think that's a personality trait. I think I'll be – God willing, I'll be 75 years old. I'll still be a fighter, a retired fighter. But that's like something that you did. But it's not my identity. It's you just go through it. And I used to look at it's such a weird thing. Like growing up, I used to think if I didn't do martial arts for a living, I was a failure. It's like I was saying, some of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners I know are martial artists, coaches, are guys that come in after their job, and train a couple days a week. And like I respect them so much. So yeah, it's amazing. It's been a blessing to be a mixed martial artist. been a blessing for this to be my career and to continue to do it. And, eventually I think I'll be a full-time coach as well. But it's not like a status thing like I used to think it was or anything like that. It's an endeavor worth pursuing, So it's everything because it's an honest living and I get to feed my kids doing something I love. Like, man, all the way around blessing, but maybe not the status thing that I thought at 21. Like, I'm going to be a mixed martial artist and I'm going to walk in a room and let everybody know. And now it's like, dude, it doesn't even matter. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
So you're taking on Nurullo Aliev this week, undefeated guy overall. What do you think of him as an opponent?
Man, tough guy, undefeated. In the UFC, just one fight, so not a lot to go off of. We fought in the same card when he fought last, was 2 years ago. Obviously, in 2 years, you can get a lot better. I've gotten a lot better too. But he likes to grapple. I like to grapple, so I think at some point we'll end up, engaged in the grappling. And I love my odds there. I love my odds pressuring on the feet, and I think it's also a chance to show all the work we've done in kickboxing in the last 10 years that, in fights here and there, a couple combos will show up, or I've been in some ugly fights where maybe like you're kind of just brawling, but I think there's a chance to really show some finesse and my craftsmanship on the feet too, and the ring generalship. So awesome opportunity. Love the fight. When I got the offer, it was like first thing in the morning, and like I was like wiping my eyes. I'm like, yeah, love it. Let's do it. Like, love the challenge, love the opportunity. This is the stuff we talk about, right? When you're coming up and dreaming about this stuff, it's stuff like this. It's getting a short notice call to go fight an undefeated guy who's coming in from across the world and, test yourself. It's not about like, oh, well, I needed an extra week to watch the footage. Like, that's not what it's about. It's about being bold and brave and going out there and doing something pretty cool. So I think this is a great opportunity to do that.
Obviously, you have a lot more UFC experience than him, and you have more professional fights under your belt. You think that makes a difference here?
Yeah, I hope so. I think it will. Obviously, once you get to a certain point, fights are fights. I fought guys I fought Jim Miller, with my third UFC fight. So, and what I said in that fight was the experience only plays a factor if I let it as the inexperienced guy. So, you don't want to bank on that, but I will say this is there's no situation in a fight I haven't been in at this point in time. I've been dropped. I've hurt guys. I've taken guys down, submitted guys, decisions, everything under the sun. So, after a certain point, you're kind of unfazed and you're just ready for anything. And that definitely plays into my favor for sure. And, I think it's a great chance to put my experience to work.
You mentioned the Jim Miller fight, obviously a great win over a future Hall of Famer. Looking back at it years later, do you really reflect on that was the fight that kind of, put you on the map in terms of being in the MMA community?
I don't think it did in like any public eye because it wasn't the most exciting fight. But for me, that was a huge fight. I was a big Jim Miller fan, and then, B is like stepping in your third fight, feeling like a new guy, on campus, and then going out there and being like, oh yeah, like turns out every fighter is just another fighter, another man. I don't know why I was ever worried about it to begin with. Not because he's not great, but because he's great, and so was I, and he's gonna feel like another person when you get in there. So it was kind of eye opening again for seeing these things for what they really are, and not what you think it might be, and that was exactly what it was. Pulling back the curtain on another, thing that was, way more overhyped than it was in the sense of, stressing yourself out for nothing.
You get to fight in the Apex again. Overall, how do you enjoy fighting in that environment? Do you like the closed intimacy of it?
I like it. I think it gets back to the true essence of competition, Of course, there's no feeling like walking out in front of 20,000 people. That's bucket list type stuff, but I got to do it a couple times now. Apex is good. It feels like, here's the thing. Every Saturday, I, go into the gym. I have my cage rounds, and then I go about my day. And then this Saturday, I'm going to go into a slightly bigger gym. I'm going to have my cage rounds, and then we're going to go about our day. Like, it just feels very much like what we do, The only thing I didn't love about the Apex before was not getting to have, anybody there, especially during the COVID era. So, and really, like, you want your friends and family, but the person I want there is my wife, So she got in one because she came out last minute and just kind of snuck through the cracks. But on this one, we get to have 4 tickets like we would at the regular events. So that's super cool because we kind of have the team out here, right? I have myself, my corners, and then 4 people that'll be, they're coming in right now, actually, and my wife will be here Thursday. So getting to have the support system is always great. That was the only thing I never liked about the Apex. I love being able to hear my corner. I love being able to have that, competition feel and that kind of intimate setting.
It's kind of crazy to think, COVID shut down the world, but for mixed martial arts, I mean, it was great for the UFC. I mean, it was the only thing on television for so long. What was it like to be fighting and, part of that craziness? You have to have all the COVID tests, isolation, quarantines. What was it like to actually compete during that?
It was cool. I think it was a special time, and that's what I was saying in an interview earlier. Someone's like, "Oh man, like, so you weren't training?" I'm like, "No, I did. I did the same thing I did during COVID. When the world stopped, we were told no fights, but stay ready. So we hopped into training camp because it's coming back quick. Then when they announced fights were back on, it started going quick. And then I got COVID. I had to pull out of a fight. So I ended up having like a 22-week training camp, and then got a fight on like the same amount of notice I had for this one, like 8 to 9 days. And you're like, that stuff gives you experience that you can't get back. So it was an awesome time, man. It was great, and you feel like you're kind of going to do something cool that nobody, even though there's a million people watching on TV, it feels like nobody knows about it because we were on quarantine. You're just kind of getting bussed to and from the arena. So it was a special time, and a bulk of my career has been done during that time. So pretty cool, and it's crazy how now we're back like it never happened, and other than the Apex, but come and go as you want all fight week and this and that. I remember being at the Residence Inn right off the strip, and you're walking laps in the parking lot like prison, and you're looking down at the strip. Like I'm not like a Vegas guy, but you're like, oh man, like there's people out there like going to restaurants and like walking and getting a coffee. Like we can't do anything. We got security on both ends of this place. So makes you appreciate how good we have it now.
All right, Joe, last question for you, my friend. In a perfect world, what is the outcome this Saturday when you take on Nurullo Aliev in the UFC?
Man, the perfect outcome is fighting my fight and getting my hand raised after 3 rounds. That's what I'm always going to picture, is just grinding it out. If anything comes up along the way where I can crack him or grab his neck, I would love that. And I think that's a very good possibility. But just putting a pace on him for 3 rounds, grinding him out, and getting my hand raised after 3, God willing, would be the perfect fight. That's it, man. It's just we've prepped, we're ready to go, and just excited for the opportunity, ready to rock.
Awesome, Joe. Well, it's always a pleasure talking to you, my friend. I can't wait to watch you get back in action, and wish you nothing but the best, Joe.
Bro, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate your time. Talk to you later.